Hey, this is Callan from Authentic Lifestyle Design, and today I want to talk to you about Spiral Dynamics Stage Orange. So we're getting up there. This is our fifth stage in Spiral Dynamics. If you want to go back and have a look at my introduction video to Spiral Dynamics, as that really builds the groundwork for this. And I've also made a video on each stage building up to Orange. So there's 4 videos existing now on the 4 stages below. Spirodynamics was a model originally devised by Professor Claire Graves, and it was since really put together by 2 guys named Chris Cohen and Don Beck. So I'm not affiliated with those guys. This is just my personal insights and understandings of the model, and I'm enjoying sharing those with you today. I think it's a really powerful model of developmental psychology that sadly most people don't know about. And it really does, in a way, provide the keys to how we develop as humans and how we develop our consciousness. And there's some tremendous values to that, and understanding where you are on the spiral, and also understanding how to move up if that's something you want to do. Whilst no stage is better than the other, they do build on top of each other, and you will open your mind as you move up the models. So orange is a key here. And another thing to note about orange is probably really in the West the dominant stage that we're at now. Orange is sort of, I guess where the average person is at. So it's interesting to have a look at. Let's jump in and explore. Okay, so remember before this we had blue, which was all about hierarchies and doing the right thing, and highly religious and very black and white in their thinking that there's a right and wrong way to do everything. And it's very accustomed to the culture and people doing their part in the culture. Now, orange has moved past that. The pendulum has swung because it swings from collective to individual. So blue was very collective. It was focused on the community. Now orange, we're swinging back to the individual. Similarly to red, how it was focused on itself, orange is the same. So let's have a look. Orange really focuses on success. So where blue was happy doing their job in the hierarchy, say being the vehicle mechanic or being the police officer or whatever it is, orange isn't really into that as much. Orange wants success. Orange wants to push itself and to get to the highest, most successful state possible. And this is material success. So it wants all the money, it wants all the women, it wants to live in all the nice places and to spend money and to own the mansion and the nice car and all the rest of it. Orange is really driven by material success and being seen as successful by others. And very important. See, orange is highly egocentric. Maybe even the most egocentric stage, because you're really focusing on yourself and how you can get ahead. That's a really primary concern at orange. Now, another thing is orange focuses heavily on materialism. And by materialism, I mean the physical world. And so that involves stuff. They're very into stuff. So that's making a lot of money. That's having a nice house, a nice car, nice clothes. And they can drive down the street in their Lamborghini and get out in their $5,000 suit and have people go, wow, that guy is awesome. He must be really successful. All right? Or materialism, keeping up with the Joneses. That whole mentality. Very materialistic. And they're always looking at what other people have. Not even so much who they are. Sometimes it's just what do they have. Is this person worth talking to? Going into a relationship with or whatever. What do they got? What resources do they have? Very important for orange. Next one is climbing hierarchies. Like I said, blue kind of settles in the hierarchy. They'll stay in their little spot and they'll be content with that. Orange is not like this at all. Orange is always trying to accumulate more. Think of the dragon like sitting on a pile of gold. Orange is like that. They're trying to accumulate more and more stuff and more success and to become bigger and bigger. And as they get bigger and bigger, their ego is going to inflate. That'll get bigger and bigger as well, and they'll feel bigger and better about themselves. And that could be any hierarchy, but they're going to try and climb it. They're going to try to get that promotion or to be the boss or to start the business or to do something that's going to allow them to climb and to be recognized. So they're not going to settle for average like blue might. They're not interested in average. They want to excel. They want to be more. They want to climb past that. They see average people as kind of wasting their lives sometimes, and orange is going, nope, I need to move past this. I don't want to be average. I want a lot more stuff and success and, things and value than the average person has. And some are willing to work for that, and some aren't. Some just, it's ideological. Depends on their motivation. Now, the final thing here is that they're focused on the individual self, meaning they're focused on themselves, very egocentric. It's about me becoming the best I can possibly be, based on the success criteria of stage orange, which again is highly materialistic. They're going, how can I be the most successful, important, interesting person in the room? And they're going to try really hard to achieve that. So you can see how this has moved from blue, where someone's basically doing their part in society and just kind of living their life and having a preset of values and beliefs, and how orange has kind of transcended that and gone, nope, not for me. I don't want to be a sheep. I don't want to be an average little thing. I want to climb. I want to become more. And that's what they're going to do. And either they'll do that, they'll have the discipline, or they'll just talk about it. Depends. All right, let's talk about the pros of stage orange, because again, every stage has pros and cons. Here's some of the pros of orange. The first one is that they are highly ambitious. Orange wants success, and they're going to try to do different things to get that success. See why blue might work their 40 hours a week and do their thing and then go home to their family and just live a life. Orange might do 60, 70 hours a week. It'll really push itself in order to climb. It wants to show the people above it that it's worthy of climbing above. Say if they're an athlete, they want to be a famous basketball player, whatever it is. They will put in the effort. They would go to the training. They would do this. They've developed all this discipline at blue. If they're a healthy orange, then they've integrated all the stuff from blue, and therefore they are disciplined and they can motivate themselves to really push and to go and achieve bigger things. So they're really ambitious. Also, they're highly rational. See, materialism is stuff, but at the same time, it's the world we see. It's this three-dimensional plane that we exist on. So it's very scientific. Religion and spirituality and all these things, blue and earlier stages probably looked out for and cherished, kind of get thrown out here because orange doesn't really see value in those. Orange doesn't really believe that there's a God floating up in the clouds so much as what blue did. And they're not as into that. So they're very what we call rationalist, or they have to see it to believe it. They're not going to believe something someone says just out of faith. They have to see it. They've got to see the results and the numbers and the figures. And it's a very logical stage. People are very logical at orange. They're really thinking, very left-brained. Another one is that they're innovative and resourceful. Because again, orange wants to be successful. And being innovative and resourceful is going to lead you to success, whether that's working for somebody and solving problems for a company, and the managers and the executives see that and they'll move you up the chain. Or when you start your own business and you innovate and you start a new thing and you're resourceful that way and you're good at business and you're good at marketing and you figure out how to make bucketfuls of money and you build like that. So orange is very innovative and resourceful because they understand it's every man for himself. Therefore, if orange wants success, it's going to have to put in the work. It's going to have to make that difference, and it's going to have to stand out if it wants to achieve its goals. Another thing is orange wants more out of life. And by this I mean orange aren't really comfortable just settling for an average, mediocre, white picket fence kind of lifestyle. Orange are always pushing themselves. So you'll see orange traveling and doing a lot of the Instagrammer sort of travel. Adrenaline junkies, partying, nightclubs. Nightclubs are really orange. If you go in there, there's a bunch of ego flexes and people showing off their money and their skills and their success. So a lot of nightclubs are highly orange. And you see people, they kind of want a bit more out of life than what the average person gets. And not everyone at Orange is going to achieve these goals and get all this stuff, but they have that desire. They want that stuff. And they attribute their own happiness and their own value and their own worth to how successful they are and how they compare to people around. That's why I made the video about big fish, small pond. To someone like Stage Orange, that's really important. It's like, how am I going compared to those around me? How successful am I compared to the guy down the road or the people in my class or whatever it is? So they want more out of life. Also, they are driven towards success and high achievement, which is pretty standard, really. That's what they want. They want success. They want to achieve amazing things. And they want to be valued. They want to be successful. They want to have resources. They want to have a bunch of money. They want to have the freedom that comes with having a bunch of money and not having to so much work for a boss or having other people control them. They can kind of do their own thing now. And, they everywhere they go, people like them and respect them because of whatever it is they've done. And that can be highly beneficial. And the last one is they are more open-minded. See, where blue is very black and white, it's like things have to be done this way. This is the traditional way that we've done it forever, and this is how it has to stay. And this is the religion we follow, and it has to be done like this, and then you have to do this in these exact steps. Orange isn't as like that. Orange looks at things more systemically. So it looks at a bunch of black and white rules and says, well, what if I ignored that and I went and leveraged this? And then that hacks the matrix and the society that we live in, and it allows me to become really successful. Or they invent something else. They're like, well, maybe there's a God, but maybe there's not. They start to question different things. They start to think, all right, well, maybe this phone that I've got to wind up isn't that good. Maybe I should invent a phone where people can press buttons and that'll make a bunch of money. And that's how you get the technological developments. That's a massive pro of Orange, is innovation. Because Orange wants to make money, and one of the key ways to make money in entrepreneurship is to solve problems. So they're looking at systems that exist now and they're saying, well, what could be improved or optimized that would make me successful, that the world needs? So Orange is really pushing the forefront of technology and trying to always constantly improve things and to one-up their competition. So heaps of pros at Orange. And you can see that today with society, how fast technology is growing and how focused that is, and even so much how people aren't weighing the cons of this. They're just innovating for the sake of innovating and seeing what happens. So Orange can be really positive, and it can allow people to climb and to be successful and to help the world and all these amazing things. There's heaps of value. But of course, where there's pros, there's cons. And like blue, Orange has quite a lot of cons. Here they are. The first one is that Orange can hurt or exploit others if needed in order to achieve their goals. So this could mean screwing someone over to get some kind of business opportunity. Say you're competing with Jim down the road and you both sell ice cream, and all of a sudden you start selling way more ice cream than Jim. You're not thinking that Jim's going bankrupt and that he's got to feed his family and all these things. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking, Jim's the competition, I want his business, I want his customers, and you're a better marketer and whatever else, and all of a sudden you get his customers and Jim's out of business, right? Things like that. Or say you're going for a promotion and you get some dirt on someone else going for the promotion who you think might beat you. Well, maybe you might just link an email to a superior with whatever that thing is, which gets him in trouble, and then all of a sudden he's not going to get that promotion. You are. Different things like that. So Orange is kind of happy to throw people under the bus if they have to. So if you have a friends with someone who's a hard Orange, they're not necessarily the best people to trust if them helping you is going to potentially hurt them. Because again, Orange wants success. And you see this in the world too. Like, look at the ways people dump plastic in the ocean and overfishing and just all these environmental things that Orange particularly does, where it's all about profit, it's all about money. It's like, what's the cheapest way we can dispose of this nuclear waste? Not so much what's the safest way, because Orange is focusing on the profit, on the money. And they're happy to kind of exploit systems and make seedy deals under the table and to do all these different things in order to acquire more success and stuff on the surface. So there can be a lot of corruption in orange. Like you look at Wolf of Wall Street, where they're literally exploiting people they're basically running a Ponzi scheme. Orange is famous for Ponzi schemes. Next one, again, is a highly materialistic. This can also be a massive con because they're not really as focused on the relationships or the people, who they truly are. It almost becomes like, what do people have? What can people offer me? And you're thinking about yourself, and you're thinking kind of selfishly in this respect. And you're thinking about, all right, what can I get from everyone I'm with? And that becomes a little bit more shallow, and relationships become a little bit more shallow. And again, orange will exploit people. So you might exploit someone in order to get a better car or a better job or some more money or a house, whatever it is. You name your materialistic thing. Another one is every man for himself. So an example is hardcore uninterrupted capitalism. That'd be an example of this, where there's no social security, no pensions, no financial support from the government at all. And it's just a bunch of monopolies all battling it out for your cash, right? That would be the example of every man for himself. So say if someone's disabled and broke and a bunch of other things, they just can't work, they can't make money, or whatever reason, the orange mentality is just to look at someone who doesn't have the things you have and just to say, well, they're lazy. They didn't work as hard as me. They didn't try. They probably just sat down. They didn't use the right strategies. They didn't do their research. They didn't read the right books. And that's their fault. So they deserve to be where they are. And that can be a very common trait of orange. They don't understand what privilege is, and privilege does exist. Because you're dealt certain cards throughout your life. You're born into a certain family, and certain things happen to you throughout your life, and you don't necessarily have control over them. And orange can kind of ignore that. Orange can go, nope, I'm the best, I climbed up the ladder and I'm here. But maybe 100 other people tried that and failed, just because something happened. Say John wanted to be the basketball player, and he was playing basketball, but then he threw his shoulder out and his shoulder was stuffed and he could never play properly again. Right? That's one example. And there's countless others. People can get injured or depressed, or things can happen that stop them from getting to where they want to be. And the orange perspective is, well, they're just not good enough. They're not worthy. They don't deserve it. Right? And if there's people that are homeless and struggling and all the rest, which you see in parts of the world, orange are going, well, yeah, they're probably all drug addicts and they're probably all this, and they're generalizing, saying, yeah, well, that's not my problem, which isn't necessarily the healthiest way. But at orange, this is often what can happen, is you can look at other people that are suffering and you can neglect it and be like, well, it's not my problem. It's got nothing to do with me. Even if you somehow caused that problem. Like if you put someone out of business or exploited someone or you fired someone, a hardcore orange boss might just sack someone. Be like, yep, you're fired, 2 weeks notice, not realizing that that person is supporting their mum who has cancer and they're really depressed and they're broke, right? And orange doesn't consider the waves of the things they do so much. You see that with social media. Now there's a couple of regulations, but you see it a lot of the time. It's a lot of these apps and things. They're just trying to get your attention and trying to get as much attention and money and information from you as they possibly can in order to make the most amount of cash. And that's, for orange, that's completely fine. It's completely ethical. When if you move up to green or higher stage, you start to see sort of the flaws in that and how it can be harmful. Okay. So the next one is it can lead to inequality. Because again, you get to a point where there's a bunch of monopolies and a small pool of people have the majority of the wealth and the power and the success. And they've got that mentality that, well, we're up the top and that's where we're supposed to be. And the only reason other people aren't up here is because they didn't try hard enough or because they're not worthy of it. And therefore they deserve to be homeless or poor or whatever else it is. You even see that with orange charity. Orange charity is often just to make the people running the charity look good. And they're not usually even run that well. A lot of the money goes into paying people to lead the charities. That's why when you donate to charity, actually research the charity you donate to, because you want to make sure that that money actually goes to the place you're saying it is, and you want to know what percentage, how much of that money is. Say you're donating to build a school in Africa, how much of that money is actually going to go towards building the school in Africa, right? Look into things like that. The last one I've got here is not looking after those in need. So again, that's people with disabilities or mental health problems or various other things, physical problems, whatever else it is, just they fell in hard times, drug addiction, it could be anything. Because they have this mentality of, well, that was stupid. Say someone had, say their girlfriend dumped them and whatever else, and they got really sad and they discovered heroin and they started injecting that every night, and then give them a year and they're a junkie and they're walking around all depressed and miserable and lost, and they just can't help themselves. And someone at Orange is going to walk past and go, oh, what an idiot. Why'd they touch heroin for? Stupid. They're not actually thinking in the circumstances that led to that person being in the state where they wanted to inject the stuff. They don't look at that. They sort of look at people where they are and they judge them based on their status and all these things, right? If someone's poor or lost or confused or whatever else, they're usually judged for it. They're usually judged as being lazy or weak or unmotivated or whatever else it is, when you don't know that person's story. You don't know what's happened in their lives. And Orange doesn't think about that. Orange doesn't really care about that. So let's check out some examples of Orange. First one I've got here is pop culture, especially in the West, because, like I said, the West is predominantly orange. It's about like 30 to 40%, depending on where you are, of people are like a hard orange. And you hear that in the music. For example, you've got a bunch of trap kind of hip hop music now where you've got people singing about how much they've got and how many women they've slept with and how much money they're going to make and how nice their car is, right? Really orange, really materialistic. You get movies like that too. You see the hero's journey stuff a lot, where someone is poor and they want to be famous, or they want to get the girl or whatever it is, and they go through a bunch of self-development at the end, and then at the end they have that and they're really successful and everyone's really happy for them. So you see a lot of that in pop culture, which is a really kind of orange fixation, really orange idea. And yeah, it's quite strong. You see it on Instagram too, with like glamour shots, people that travel, but they're just traveling to take photos. I've met plenty of those people on my travels, as I've done a lot of traveling. And I've been on a couple of organized tours, and there is people on those tours that literally, they don't do much. They just go to the spot, they take, 100 photos, they pick the best one and edit it for their Instagram, and that's just the norm. But they're not really stopping and exploring the cultures or meeting the locals or traveling off the tourist path. They're just kind of snapping those Instagram shots. The next example is Wall Street, or any other corporate kind of dog-eat-dog world, where everyone's trying to one-up each other and get rich and get successful and create a new algorithm that's better than the person in the building across from his algorithm, and trying to siphon as much money and as much success as possible. So Wall Street's a pretty good example of orange. Then another one, which is more of a negative one, is pyramid schemes, or a bunch of people start a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, in order to, if you don't know how a pyramid scheme works, people start it, they promise people something, then they deliver it, and then those people go on to recruit other people, and this keeps on happening, and they keep getting money from new people, right? So this pyramid grows, and then the people that joined underneath, that are still quite high up the pyramid, they get commissions off the people underneath them. And this works until finally it becomes unsustainable, because there's no new people joining to feed the pyramid. And then what usually happens then is the whole thing crashes and the people at the top run away with all the money, right? So that's an example of orange, because, heaps of fake gurus on the internet. Say someone starts a company, they're like, oh, get rich, pay me $1,000. And at some course, you pay $1,000, and maybe it's like some generic self-help advice and you're new to it, so it sounds really valuable when it's just really general stuff you could read in a couple of books. And then they're like, right, yep, now you got to come to our seminar, yep, 10 grand, we'll mentor you, we'll show you the way, whatever it is. And they're really good at marketing, and they pull you in and all the rest of it. And yeah, there's just siphons away your money while not really giving you anything. So a bunch of pyramid schemes. And I actually fell for one a few years ago. When I was on my own personal development journey, I was in a weak place in my life and I spent $4,000 on a pyramid scheme, right? And I did go to it. I did end up going, and it wasn't all bad. There was some valuable stuff, right? But it definitely was not worth $4,000. Not even close, right? But I did go to it, and I did fall for that. And at the time, $4,000 was a lot of money. I mean, $4,000 still a lot of money, but back then, $4,000 was a lot of money. And I was quite devastated about that, and it did hit me pretty hard. So I've been a victim of the pyramid schemes. Yeah. All right, the next one is expensive brands. So like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all these fancy brands that cost 2-3 times what they really are valued at, just because they've got some fancy logo on them, right? Very orange. And then people buy them. They're like, check this out, man. I've got the Gucci shirt and the Louis Vuitton bag and the Yeezy shoes and whatever else. Check me out. And they're walking into the club with all their fancy branded gear going, yeah, check this out, girls. I've got all this nice stuff. You know what I mean? It's super orange. Super, super orange, having all these designer clothes. All right. Next one is keeping up with the Joneses. So, for example, Mary down the road buys a Tesla. And then Jane up the street goes, look, you see that? Mary's got a Tesla. You know, that means we probably need to get a Tesla too. Right? Going, oh, yep, so-and-so did this, comparing yourself to them and saying, no, we got to do that. We've got to join the club. We need the material, this, that. Which society is so good at pushing people to do because it's so ingrained into our culture. Again, because our culture is so orange. There's so much materialism involved. So keeping up with the Joneses is a big one. And if you can avoid it and embrace minimalism, you have way more freedom in your life. That will be a topic for another video, for sure. Next one is showing off. Orange likes to flex their wealth. Orange likes to show off their wealth. Because again, they don't just want money. They don't just want money sitting in the bank. They want to show it off. They want to be successful. They want to feel valuable. They want people to say, wow, that's a bunch of money and that's amazing abs you got there and that's a nice car. You're really successful and I like you and I want to hang out with you. And I'm going to give you a bunch of love. And, you know. So showing off is something Orange loves to do. You know, they love the glamour. All the glitz and glamour of life. Last one is attributing somebody's value by their net worth. So, for example, you hear about someone. You're like, oh, yeah, well, let's see how much money they make. Jump onto Google. So-and-so net worth. And all of a sudden, you're valuing them based on how much they make rather than who they are. Which is really orange, because again, that's the orange paradigm of success. It's how much money do they make and how much status have they got and all this. That's a really strong attribution to success in orange. So people are looking at that. You know, they're going, right, well, this guy makes more money, so he must be better than this other guy, when that might not be true. Maybe the other guy is better, he's just more niche, or he's just not as discovered. You see that with coaches. Again, because I'm a certified coach. Most of the coaches I know who are the best are not the ones charging $1 million a year. You know, they're not. They're just not doing that. And you have a look at all this, and it's not necessarily the most expensive product or the person charging the most for a service that is the best, right? That is a very orange notion, okay? And especially with coaching, once you get up higher in the spiral, you get into integral thinking or into transcendence or much deeper topics, right? Then you're not going to have coaches charging you thousands of dollars an hour, because they're not. They're not trying to get rich. They're trying to help people, right? And you see these pyramid scheme coaches, heaps of them charging stupid amounts of money, right? In order to give people very minimal results or very minimal insights. And it's a very dangerous, sketchy world of personal development, and it gives the whole industry, the whole scene, a bad name. Because when you think of what a life coach is, it doesn't necessarily give you the best ideas. When there's awesome coaches out there, so it's a shame. It's a shame the industry needs to come out from that. And in a way, it would probably be of benefit to have the industry regulated, because at the moment anyone can call themselves a coach, and I don't know how you regulate it, but it would be interesting if there was some kind of credentials that you actually knew how to do it. For example, many people coach and they just give advice, and it's not even always good advice. Someone's orange, they manipulated their way up the pyramid. What are they going to tell the other people? Oh, you've got to manipulate way up the pyramid, right? What good's that going to do? That's going to lead to more harm than good in the world. Finally, let's look into how to transcend a stage orange to green. Green is the level above orange. That's our 6th level of the 8 levels in spiral dynamics. So the first way is to start seeing the world as one big community. So orange, usually it'll pull itself up and it'll pull up people it likes and those close to it. So their family and their friends and all the rest, they'll pull them all up and they'll feel like they're doing a really good thing by doing that. Which in a way they are, but they're neglecting people that they don't directly know or have relations with. And that's where you start seeing the world as one big community. So if you dump a bunch of nuclear waste somewhere, now you're realizing, oh, if I do that, that's going to lead to a lot of suffering, because there's a village down from that river and it's going to probably ruin their water. You're starting to think about things like this. You're starting to think more big picture, and not just about how to maximize your own happiness, but how to maximize the collective happiness of all the humans on the planet. So it's a big jump. The second thing is starting inquiring into how your actions affect others. So you start inquiring into how your actions are affecting other people. And yep, made a typo there. So that means, like what I said before, if you do something, it's going to affect other people. If you do something good for the world, something useful, then that's going to have a positive benefit. But if you do negative things, if you put a bunch of people out of business or hurt a bunch of people or manipulate people or start a pyramid scheme, you're going to cause a wave of suffering. And now that you're moving into green, you're going to start becoming a lot more conscious of that. The third one is try to understand the limitations of materialism. Because again, materialism is I've got a bunch of stuff and look how good I am because of what I've got and because of this massive pile of stuff around me and how awesome I am, right? Start to see the limitation of that. And start to see most people just don't care. Like if you drive past in a nice car, people are going to go, oh man, yeah, that's a nice Ferrari. Yeah, whatever. 20 seconds, they forgot about it, right? They don't care. And that's generally how it is. And you can get a lot of fake people around you at Orange as well, because you're probably hanging out with other people at Orange. And, they might do something to you in the future. So yeah, understand the limitations of materialism and that happiness doesn't come from stuff. Accumulating a bunch of stuff is not the key to happiness, like society would tell you it is. And it makes sense for society to tell you that, because what does society want you to do? It wants you to go buy things, and it wants you to kind of keep in the rat race. So if you're out buying things, being a good little consumer, and you're in the rat race, then that's good. And if you're all of a sudden making a bunch of money, then they love it if you're spending that, because that is really good for the economy. It's really stimulating it, and because money's moving around. But when you understand the limits of that, you will realize that it's the people that matter more than the stuff. It's the people and the quality of the people and the relationships with the people in your life, and also how the planet is as a whole, and trying to maximize that collective happiness. Very valuable. And the last one is to open emotionally and form deep relationships with other people. So not shallow kind of relationships where it's like, check this out, I'm not a trophy wife, or not fake friends that are all rich and you just go and get drunk or whatever you do. Having real, deep, intimate relationships with a bunch of people where you go deep together and you are like a family and you can talk to each other about deep, real topics and all the small talk and all the stuff that comes with Orange, talking about pop culture and what's on Netflix and all the rest of it. All of a sudden that stops mattering and you start having more real conversations, right? That'll move you into green. That'll move you into a more people-focused, more heart-centered way of being. when you're focused more, again, on opening your heart and feeling your emotions and exploring. Where orange is very masculine and very logical, green swings it. It's very feminine and very emotional. So it's a very interesting transition. And yeah, very stark contrast. And you've gone from individual thinking at orange and you're moving into group thinking again at green. So yeah, that's a couple of ways of how you can transcend from stage orange to green. So that's all I have to talk about today for stage orange. Hope that you gain some value from that. And I hope that you're starting to see patterns, because you can look at people and you can also look at cultures and societies, and you can sort of, after you've learnt this model, say if you went through these videos of mine and maybe a few others on the internet, read a couple of books, all of a sudden you would start to see trends, right? And you would understand where you are on this spiral in different areas of your life, because it depends. And you'd start realizing, and if you wanted to, you could start climbing it, and you could start exploring it and expanding it, and fully going through and enjoying and experiencing each of these stages and gaining insight into both the pros and the cons. So I hope you gained value out of this. I'll make one on stage green sometime soon, because I'm going to keep working through the model. There's 3 more. I'm really excited to talk about yellow and turquoise when we get to that, because they're really interesting and they're really fun. So I'm keen. If you gained anything from this, feel free to give the video a like. Send me a comment as to what you thought of the video. If it's great, let me know. If there's stuff I can work on, let me know. And share it if you find or think that it would be valuable for anybody else. I know for me, this model's valuable. I tried to talk friends into exploring it. Took me 3 years, but eventually I did get a couple of friends into it, funnily all at once. And yeah, I see tremendous value in this, which is why I'm investing the time to really make some deep videos about it. And then in the future, I can link it to people. People like, what's spiral dynamics? And I can just, I made a series on it, and I can just send it to them. Rather than having this conversation, which would take hours and hours to explain properly, I can make a little video series, and I see tremendous value in that, because I can answer questions, and not just to one person, but I can answer questions to whoever comes across this content, which hopefully in the years grows and becomes a really vibrant, rich community. So yeah, hope you gain something from this and enjoy the rest of your day.